Good evening and welcome to Gunner Shot. Gunner Shot में आप सबका स्वागत है. Today we're going to talk of something very interesting. We're going to talk of how India is being contained. And yeah, India is also being contained. Let me put it across before you below who will contain India. And it's being done by all the big powers. And the reason is very simple. India is rising and no one likes a rising power. Because a rising power always threatens those powers which are above it. Uh, and it's a it's one thing to say we're going to become the third biggest power and all that in time, but as we rise, we're going to have problems, and this problem of containment. But containment of India will not be like what is happening with China. It's going to be far different, right? And it's going to be far different because our conditions are different, our adversities are different, and our adversaries are different. So to talk of all this and discuss this subject, as you can see, I have with me Gen Dushyant Singh. Gen Dushyant, good evening and welcome to this great topic. It was after all your idea, which we've taken that up, and your opening views, and then we'll take off.
Good evening, sir, and thank you very much for inviting me again to this podcast. First of all, like you said, it was a mutually discussed idea, and not purely
No,
my
no, no. Yeah.
purely my idea. And why we are saying so is because of the kind of activities which are taking place around us, especially in the last 1.5 years, which clearly indicates a trend. Now it's no more one-off incident. It's no more Canada trying to pull down India. It's no more US one odd incident of Gurpatwan Pannu. It's all over Australia, New Zealand. I mean, you can see the neighborhood being disturbed, by whom we can guess, or make a considered guess as to who all are trying to do it. And somewhere there seems to be a convergence, I believe, not intentionally but maybe unintentionally also, that there seems to be convergence of interests, especially those who are at the regional level competing against us, and at the global level who think of us possibly as some kind of emerging competition in the future. You'll mind my words that I'm not still saying adversarial, but I'm just saying competition in the future. So with that brief preview, I think we can straight away launch into our presentation, so that it gives us the idea as to what we are going to talk about. So basically, what I'm going to talk today is about the game plan to contain India, and the strategies which India must adopt to counter these containment efforts. So with that, let me also say that I'll be covering my topic in why India is being contained. You alluded to it in the initial remark of yours, and what are the global power efforts in doing so? What are the regional powers efforts in doing so? And what is the strategic implications for India? So that would be the major factor towards the end of my presentation. Coming on to concept of containment, containment actually came about when the Cold War One was happening, and it was the idea of containing USSR by the NATO and the West in general, to prevent its expansion beyond the borders of USSR. So therefore, you would find counteractions taking place in Vietnam. You would find actions taking place to wean away China, etc., etc. So, or competition in Latin America, competition in Asia, or West Asia, Middle East. However, in today's context, containment is referred to nowadays primarily to China and India. And I feel, I mean, in a way, it's a compliment also to us, in the sense that, people are now thinking of India being worth being contained. That's also a big achievement, that we have achieved a status which possibly demands that we be contained, lest we become a competition which is going to be at par with the powers that be. So with that, let me answer the question: why is India being contained? First of all, you refer to it. India is a rising power. economic heft, and it is on the verge of being the fourth largest economy, and by 2027-28 it is almost confirmed that we will be the third largest economy. Now that's no mean achievement. Militarily, we are no pushovers. Post Dokala and Galwan, people do realize our resilience for being pushed over by powers which are around us or which are competing with us. So therefore, if you look at it, even the West is learning from the Chinese experience. That is the third major reason. I was in a conference, international conference, where the point was discussed as to, you initially gave a lot of leverage, heft, and you propagated Chinese rise to such the current level, and now you are repenting as to why you allowed it to do it. Probably your policy of encouraging China at that point in time, whether it was Henry Kissinger who did it, who launched this initiative, people are doing a rethink about it. And to my mind, because of the Chinese trajectory, as a learning lesson by the West, they are taking preemptive action against India also, in the same vein that, well, India is required by them, but it should not become so big or so large that it becomes difficult for them to then control India. So that seems to be a learning experience of the China trajectory. So these are the 3 4 reasons which I felt are why India is being contained. The other thing is strategic influence. you know uh, 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 India is bidding to emerge as a leader of the global south, although China is also competing with us. But on number of occasions, especially soft power issues, India takes the entire global south with it. If there is a resolution which is being tabled in United Nations, you'll find almost 100% of the global south going with India. That's a major influence. Multilateral forums also, India is now being talked about in a bigger way, whether you take G20, G7, BRICS, SCO. I think everywhere India's voice is being heard. Now that is something which, in the heart of the powers that are, it's not being liked. The second issue is that striving to be the net security provider in the IOR. While initially it was looking as containment of China, but if India becomes a very major power in IOR, then definitely it will have control over others as well. It's a very simple logic. If I start growing, I'll start becoming bigger than the other powers that are moving around in the IOR. Then is the technological influence. See, India is emerging a software superpower. There is no denial on that. If you take the UPI, such a large platform has not been created anywhere in the world. Nandan Nilekani needs to be praised for that kind of achievement. We are the third largest investor now in AI. Earlier we were the fifth. Now we are the third largest investor. Now this is giving signals to our friends, whether they are on the west or on the east, that we are moving towards a major power status. Look at the enhancement in investments in autonomous weapon systems. Today we are very much up in the first five of the world. There may be a large gap between China and India, but we are there being counted on top. Then you have the major, we are considered as a major space power. I mean, we can launch our own satellites. We have our own ICBMs. We have our own MRBM. So we are a major power as far as our space power is concerned. So therefore, all these factors are giving a overall holistic image of India being a power to reckon with. And once you start coming on the global horizon, definitely there'll be people who are jealous. There'll be people who don't want you to rise to that level. So this is the major thing. So what is the
Yeah,
US?
can I add a few points to which why is India being contained? This
Yes,
is something which something which I read just a couple of days back.
what
Uh,
is it?
China feels that our location, our strategic location, is so important
That's right.
that we have a natural influence over the IOR, and we have a natural influence over the IR. which is at China's cost, especially because China feels that the IOR is its Karam Bhumi virtually for the simple reason that it's made a big foray into Middle East. It's made a big foray into Africa with all the ports and trade and all that. So free passage through the IOR is critical to China,
China,
right?
absolutely, absolutely.
And the the flip side of the story is China doesn't have a good geography,
Yeah,
right? China feels that look, India, while India can do what it wants, we can't do what uh,
they want.
the same. Yeah, the flip can't be true. So
Absolutely,
you have to contain China. I mean, we have to contain. China feels that India has to be contained through other methods. So that's
absolutely,
one.
absolutely,
Then there's an issue of natural influence. You know, the fear that India has its natural civilizational influence in the area around and in large parts of Africa and even in Latin America, it worries China. The third
absolutely.
is a thing which is specific to China. Uh, the Chinese feel that the Indian rise is at China's cost.
Yeah,
So that is also a factor which drives, why they need to contain India. Yeah, please. I
yeah.
just thought I'll add this
No,
over and
no,
above what you're.
definitely, they are very relevant point. In fact, this idea of zero sum game leads to these kind of factors coming in the way of international or foreign policy of a country. So, with that, let me just focus on the US and specific efforts, US, and then I'll focus on China also. Most of the points you've already covered. First of all, as I had said, that US is containing India based on its China experience, that China has become now so big that the US is finding it difficult to decouple itself from China, or to contain China, or to control China. So I think they want to keep India somewhere hanging. I don't want to use that phrase, that it wants India to remain as a containing power to China, but it also wants India not to become so big as to become an independent pole by itself and becomes a competition. Then second is, it wants to use India as a counterbalance, which I had already mentioned, but controlling this entity, not by advising or suggesting it. Keep it engaged positively, but keep pulling the strings they find that India is probably moving too close to Russia, or it's moving too close to a interest which is counterproductive to the US. Then they will raise these issues, delay the invest and the cooperation, or they delay the deals which are taking place in the defense sector. So these are the kind of things we will see over a period of time as far as the US is concerned. So what is the US actually doing? In my mind, its deep state is very active, whether it is through George Soros or other organizations, think tanks, etc., trying to get back to India. Then the second issue is about also using organizations like OCCRP, CIA, for destabilizing our neighbors, keeping us engaged in the region intimately, so that we do not get the space to think of our economic development. Then turning a blind eye to Pakistan's anti-India activities. You'll hardly find US commenting on anything which Pakistan does vis-a-vis India. And similarly, the boundary disputes also with Pakistan and India, you'll find the US generally maintaining either a neutral stance. So all these actions are probably in a way a method to contain India. If you look at the Chinese efforts, well, you already highlighted that it sees India as a threat. It plays in the gray zone. These are I mean, there are a number of instances of cyber attack. There are a number of instances of interfering into our northeastern states, and similarly, it is winning away our neighbors to contain our neighbors, especially in IOR, and by investing in Sri Lanka, Maldives, etc. Like you had highlighted this issue, that it doesn't want, I mean, it wants a passage for its trade, especially. it is also opposing the India in the international forums. If India moves a case against a terrorist in UN Security Council, it vetoes it. So these are the methods by which China has been constantly using all its dime, that is diplomacy, information, military, and economic heft, to contain India. Then if you look at the neighbors' efforts, well, neighbors are being smart. That is the way I look at it. I think they are trying to play India against China, just to get more and more benefits both from China as well as India. That seems to be the primary motivation. Whether you take Nepal, whether you take Bhutan, whether you take Sri Lanka, whether you take Maldives, all these countries are trying to get max from China also, and max from, look at Sri Lanka. What did they do? They initially posed as being close to China, so they got 10 million RMB help just recently, about first week of November, for in the name of disaster relief, etc., etc. Besides the cash flow, and these countries are also exploiting the International Monetary Fund. Our neighbors are making a very strong, very smart pitch, I would say, to develop themselves. You can't blame them, because that is how they will survive, and that is how they look at surviving. What we need to do is that our strategic interests should not be compromised, and here we would have to look at Nepal and Bhutan very closely, because Nepal and Bhutan and Sri Lanka and Maldives, these four countries, to my mind, are very critical to our strategic security. And unless we keep them under check, we will have to deal with them militarily. Uh, s- uh, they are also using their BRI efforts to encroach into our neighbors. They are also using nowadays. If you Earlier they used to give loans to our neighbor. Now they have changed the tack. Now they are giving aid.
AIDS.
So that is, I think, the Chinese are doing a change in their policy with the aim. Why are they doing it? Obviously, it is to wean away our
Yeah,
neighbors
yeah.
from wean away our neighbors from us. Then China keeps calling summits for South Asian countries. If you realize it, every year now is, it is taking the advantage which India had of having summits like SARC, etc., not taking place. So it is now itself conducting such summits in its own country, where all the members of the SARC nations go there. So we have to find a counter to this particular move, because all our neighbors are flocking to that. They're getting businesses, investments from there. We need to not lose this opportunity. This is something which we have to look at it. That is as far as our neighbors are concerned. So what should India do? I think military response should be modernization, enhance military spending, joint military exercises, develop MDO capabilities, strengthen maritime capabilities, and do not let the pressure down against China. This is a very important point which I want to make, that at no stage we should get into that, leisurely feeling that, okay, now things are improving with China, so we should, tone down our preparedness on the borders. I think that would be a fatal mistake. Similarly, we should continue growing as a maritime power, because unless we ensure these two things, land and maritime power, of course, air goes without saying, because it has to be on both the domains. So therefore, our military capabilities must continue to increase. Our joint military exercises must continue to be held with powers that are friendly to us. In the diplomatic measures, as I had highlighted, regional alliances have to be built. Whether we make it as a bilateral measure, or whether you make it as sectional groups like BIMSTEC, etc., or IOR countries group, something, we have to find ways and means to create these forums, so that we continue to have our influence. Even by talking, we can have influence. Leave aside this thing. Then economically, I think FDIs have to be encouraged, trade agreements, domestic incentives, nudge private sector to enhance salaries. This is something which has come up in our economic report also. While the profits are being garnered by the private sector, they are not transferring it to their employees. Therefore, the consumers are not able to spend. If the consumers are not able to spend, the GDP will not grow. Hence, I think we need to look at this also. Essentially, India should focus on attaining its rightful place at the global level and regional level by three M's. I am calling it as money, multilateralism, and military, so that we achieve active resilience. What should India do is, this is what, in my view, should be our strategy. With that, I end my presentation. I'll take a call, sir. I think there is some
Yeah,
emergency.
please take a call. Take a call. Yeah. So take a call. Take your call and mute yourself. No problem. Okay. Now, as General Dushyant will get back, let's talk of China, because the countries which are mainly containing us are, one is China and the second is USA, right? And USA till now was doing it not very overtly, but these days you find articles about the need to contain India coming out in influential journals and magazines in USA. Just one came out 2 days back in Foreign Affairs. So let's talk of China. What are the lines of action of China to carry out containment? The first is it will keep the LAC alive. So yeah, General Dushyant, as I was saying, I mean, let's identify what are the lines of
Yes,
action of containment of China vis-a-vis India.
that's
So as I and I was just going about it. The first line is of course the LAC. The
absolutely
LAC will always be a pressure point so that we are committed that side and we are focused that side, and we don't and we spend disproportionately time, effort, everything on the LAC. The
correct.
second thing is, as an extension of the LAC, there is a emerging Pak China collusive activity which is dangerous, and that spills into the maritime region. And they want, just think of the kind of containment you'll face if Gwadar becomes the first international base, overseas international base
Yeah,
of China, Pakistan. And China is arming Pakistan with the latest aircraft, the latest tanks, the latest naval equipment, submarines, destroyers, and the works. So that is one second line of attack, or rather, second line of containment. The third line of containment will be on the IOR. When you say IOR, it is not only the Indian Ocean region,
yeah,
it is more of these countries in the Indian Ocean region.
that's right, sir.
Okay. Yeah. The fourth is through your trade. You're being made more dependent on trade with China to increase your GDP. So it becomes a tap. Whenever they want to open it, they'll open it. Whenever they want to close it, they'll close it. Okay. The fourth, as General Dushyant, I mean, the next, as General Dushyant said, is your neighbors. Through your neighbors like Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, Maldives, and to some extent, very little though, but from Afghanistan also. But the most dangerous thing which China is doing, into which we are today open, the line of attack or the line of containment, is through Myanmar, through Manipur, exploiting this problem in Bangladesh, exploiting the weaknesses of our democratic system, interfering in our elections, the disinformation campaign which goes on. In fact, if you see this ambassador, Chinese ambassador, ever since he's come for the past 2 months, he's been overactive with this disinformation campaign. So I thought these were the issues which the Chinese line of uh, trying to
Uh,
contain India. So you have any views? Please add that. Yeah, I'll pass it on to you.
Absolutely, sir. You see, China is tackling India at multiple levels. At the global level, wherever India is trying to make headway economically, it is also trying to counter that, whether it is Africa, whether it is Latin America. If we strike a deal with Venezuela, they are also going into that area and investing in that particular place. If it is Africa, the India had a fair amount of investment. I remember, as per my last figures, it was about $75 billion. But The Chinese are now enhancing that amount of their investment in that particular country. Similarly, you will find in West Asia, India was developing its relations quite well with UAE, with Saudi Arabia. Pat comes the Chinese response. They try to make a deal with Iran and Saudi Arabia. They are trying to somehow counter the IMEC. IMEC, of course, IMEC has got countered by by unfortunate incidents of Israel, Gaza, etc. But that has come as a windfall as far as the Chinese are concerned. But they were also quite quietly investing in a manner that this particular line of our investments or our development of trade, etc., takes a hit. It's already taken a hit. So that is at the global level. Now, if you find at the regional level, at our boundary level, besides the point which you mentioned, look at look at a scenario which I would like to paint, and this is really really horrifying. Myanmar is absolutely unstable. It's anybody's territory. Anybody who has that necessary heft can exploit Myanmar territory to interfere into India. One. Bangladesh is going nowhere with Yunus absolutely out of control, either by design or because of the pressure of Jamaat-e Islam. Bangladesh is also up for grabs as far as activities detrimental to India is concerned. So, from the east and from the south, India gets boxed in. Now, you look at Nepal. What is China doing in Nepal? In Nepal, China is building a axial right from the border up to the Siliguri corridor. Similarly, in the case of eastern side, it's already got a road via the Mansarovar and then hitting on to our Limpia Dhura and that particular area. Look at Bhutan. It is investing. It has already encroached in Jakarlung. Jakarlong is now, in fact, got military barracks as per the latest reports and the satellite imagery which is coming up. So, therefore, it is trying to put pressure on the Bhutanese that look, we will continue to encroach in this area unless you give us the strategic area of the Dokala and
Doklam.
yeah, Dokala and there's one
The-
more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
near
And
Tawang, near Tawang.
yeah. So
Hmm.
Tawang is that Saktang area, but Saktang they have of late
Saktang.
kept quiet about it. But Dokala area definitely. So what is happening is we are being slowly, as a long term possibly aim, may get boxed in unless we improve the situation in Bangladesh, unless we improve the situation in Myanmar, and we mend our relations with Nepal either through our actual teeth power. I won't even call it a hard power. Let's not use military for everything. Let's use our
Hmm.
teeth. Let's use our teeth to actually put these countries on the map or on the table. Bangladesh still
Yeah,
depends heavily on India. Nepal still depends heavily on India. It can't really survive with the Chinese support, come what may. The Chinese will not be investing more than what they want to invest in terms of having an access to Indian borders. That's about all. So therefore, these countries will have to be worked upon in greater detail to ensure that they at least do not jeopardize the Indian security interest. Otherwise, what to talk of containment, we may be even boxed in. So, so
yeah,
therefore, so therefore, that is something which should be our priority number one. I think soft power has limits. People take you for granted after a while that look, yeah, these guys only believe in supporting
talk.
through finances, economically, and talking, etc. We have to follow the Chinese policy also: talk, talk, fight, fight, dada, din, din,
Right, right.
dada, 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 tin,
Yeah,
tin. Whether we do it
and
how we do it is something which we have to work upon.
yeah, I agree with you. Let's talk a little bit of Pakistan, China, their collusive activity, and how they're going about. Because you've spoken of neighbors,
Yeah,
and how do you handle that? Because as days go by, India will keep rising, irrespective of whatever we are talking.
absolutely,
It's only
absolutely
the rate of growth might get a little retarded. Okay.
correct.
But even that I don't believe will continue, right? There'll be a lot of irritants from our other neighbors. But this business of Pakistan, China is a different kettle of fish.
Correct.
Or how do you visualize that?
As far as Pakistan is concerned and China Pakistan collusivity is concerned, I think that is a reality which we have to factor in all our discourses, whether it is foreign policy, whether it is military response. That is something now it's a given. It's no more front, one and a half front, two and a half front. All those are, to my mind, thing of the past. When we talk of military response against China, it includes Pakistan as part of our response. If you are talking of military response against Pakistan, it should include a response coming from China, whether it is a direct intervention or whether it is an indirect intervention. So, therefore, our force composition, our structures need to be robust enough to deal with this kind of a threat. It is no
Yeah,
use, it is no use saying that we should have a dissuasive posture against China. If you remember, during our days when we were in the service,
yeah.
we used to call for a credible deterrence against
This,
China, even credible. But it has now been diluted to dissuasive deterrence. I think we need to work upon this particular weakness of, I won't say weakness, but this particular approach of ours, to ensure that it is no more 50-50. I think it has to be sick. I mean, what the current thing is that due to our reorganization, readjustments, etc., we have managed a kind of a 60-30 kind of a force reflections against our borders. But this needs to be enhanced to both the borders. It can't be 30 here. We got to have the offensive capabilities for our western front as well,
yeah.
while
So that means we have to create a lot of reserves,
reserves.
uncommitted reserves, which can swing both ways,
The other
right?
option is,
And
that you have some kind of a mechanism whereby you keep some forces as reserves which can be mobilized very quickly. Something like what the let's say within a month mobilization of forces which are at some level of payment, etc., so that they can be mobilized, because it's not only for immediate mobilization, it is for a protracted
long-term
long term war. Because
conflict
I don't think now wars are going to be a simple fight till you
anymore.
get,
Yeah, simple.
like a crash course and then
Crash
get out.
course.
That is
Yeah,
not going to, happen. I think there'll be pauses, there'll be sine curves in the war.
yeah.
There'll be sine curves
It's
the way we are seeing it.
the other, line of attack which China has adopted over a period of time, and it is continuing, is trying to prevent restructuring of the UN so that India doesn't become a
Yes.
permanent member of the
That,
Security
yeah,
Council.
that I forgot
Plus,
to
plus
add
the
in.
yeah, yeah, no, no. Plus the fact that they're not allowed us entry into the nuclear supply group. They
Yes.
come to Pakistan's aid in the Security Council for everything, including those terrorists and all that
And
being designated.
especially
Yeah.
now
So
Pakistan is in the Security Council. I think we're going to see more of this line of action which you are trying to say.
line of action. So yeah, how do you counter this?
Uh, I think at times we have to go beyond our strategic autonomy. This is something we have to take a call now, sir. Uh, by remaining a strategic autonomy posturing of our foreign policy, we also curtail our options. We limit our options. We have to make some very very strong friend now, whether that is Russia or whether that is US or whether that is some other permanent P5 members. That is for us to take a call, which are the natural allies in this. I find France is one which can be built upon as a counterweight for any activities which the Chinese and the Pakistani collusively will make into the UN Security Council, beside Russia and beside the US. So that will give us multiple options of catering to their joint effort of pulling down or isolating India diplomatically, especially at the global stage, and
Yeah,
also,
and I
work on the
yeah,
global
please go
south.
ahead.
Also work on the global south members who are there in the UN Security Council to keep them with India.
Yeah, is there a case for us? After all, many of these things is based on how you perform on a particular day, or you are seen in the in a particular light. Is
Yeah,
there a case for us to take up, say, mediation between Ukraine and Russia, or for that matter, put in your two bits worth in the Syria equation, whatever it good or bad or ugly it is, and so that then people say, look, here is India, whom we need. Why are we keeping it out of all these multilateral institutions? Uh, so that needs a little change of mind and like a change of mindset. Like it's not a matter of strategic leaving strategic autonomy alone. One is like you said, leave strategic autonomy or forego strategic autonomy. In this case, you have to be a little proactive and go beyond what you have been doing so far.
yeah.
Do you think there's a case for it?
While, sir, if you want to make a position for yourself at the global level, this is a very welcome step, and India did try it also, both in the case of Ukraine, Russia, and also to some extent in the case of Russia, sorry, Israel, Palestine case. Israel Hamas Palestine, I won't put it, because Palestine was not really at war with Israel. It was the Hamas faction which was at war with Israel. Uh, the problem which India faces in all this is that somewhere I think we are not so convinced of what kind of an approach we have to take. Are we going to be a realist theory approach nation, or are we going to be idealist theory nation approach? I think we are stuck between these two poles of geopolitics. Uh, I feel that if you are more oriented towards the realistic approach, I think you would be able to progress on the line of action which you are trying to recommend. That is, people listen to you if you have the capability to influence any of the actors, right, sir? So if I can influence a change of behavior of Russia or change of behavior of Ukraine, then people will listen to me as a mediator, right? Similarly, in the case of Israel Hamas, if I mediate, why is UN not succeeding, sir? It does not have the influence at all to
Yeah, I
change, change the behavior of either of the two countries. If you want to take a idealist position and talk of peace, etc., well, you're
उससे
welcome
तो
to do,
कुछ नहीं होना.
you're welcome to
No,
do
the
so.
point
We will not listen to you.
कि I take a point of कुछ होगा नहीं. आप बात
Ah,
करते रहो एक right. But no, the point I'm trying to bring out is we know that. I mean, let me be very honest. At this point of time, you don't have any chips by which Russia or Ukraine. Let's take the Russia-Ukraine case only. We
yeah,
leave this case because this has gone into a different level of complexity, and especially in Syria, you don't have a stake.
yeah,
So we'll leave that out. But Russia-Ukraine case, you have a lot of equity, both
yeah,
sides,
yes,
and we are not playing it. That's one part of the story. The second part of the story is, if you look at it, USA alone doesn't have the equity to get them to the table, Trump or no Trump.
that's
It'll
right.
not, right? Second, China has got a lot of clout with Russia, but not with Ukraine. Same thing with all these other powers which you can think of who can be mediators. Right? Even Brazil. Brazil is probably the next country which has some leeway with both the powers. But India's case is stronger. Is there a case for us to take an initiative, with Brazil and USA, and we're going to have the G20 meet very shortly,
Yeah.
to say, okay, let's do the mediation. Let the three of us do mediation and get this damn war to a close.
See, that is why I said India has to focus on a multilateral approach. Reason being that if I lack certain chips, it is provided by the
Someone else has.
other partner, and then you convince the two actors who are there in this particular conflict
Yeah,
to change their behavior. Unless we are
yeah.
having the ability to change the behavior without firing a shot, you cannot be a mediator, sir. You
Okay,
cannot be a
fine.
mediator,
And you cannot be a mediator. That's a very interesting thing. You have to invest something to do mediation. And that
or you
investment is you have to get,
correct,
yeah,
or
please.
you or you forego. Let's say, okay, say we'll stop buying oil from you, but who will be at
Yeah,
loss?
we'll be at loss. So
We'll be
our
at loss.
problem we have to handle differently to get
Correct.
into this, but I think there is an opening there, and we'll leave it at that. Let's see how it
Yeah,
plays out.
yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely.
how how do you handle USA? Because USA is a issue which keeps coming up, and we have a historically bad relationship with USA till 2000. And in all cases, they contained you, they did everything to you to pull you down, but yet you have gone up.
Yes.
Okay,
uh,
and I mean, let
I
me put it in a humorous manner. You know, USA kept pulling the chain. It was only the water which was coming out, nothing more. And India kept going up. Okay.
yeah.
So to
So
that extent, how do you handle USA? Yeah. And you've been in USA, you spent a
yeah.
lot of time there. So let me know.
uh, say I've been in the US for about 18 months, and I interacted with their intelligence. Yeah, I mean, the people who influence policies, they are the
Yeah.
ones who are called by the president to formulate a policy. For example, I interacted with a professor who was part of the policy group which was deciding whether US should attack Iraq or not. I'm talking of the second Gulf War.
Yeah, yeah, I understand.
George Bush Jr.
Mhm.
Was the president at that time, and this particular professor advised him against intervention the way they were going about it. In fact, he offered that if you want to intervene, we will give you plausible reasons which you can formulate and then go into Iraq. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is that there is a convergence of approach internally in US. This is behind the scene. What they speak in front and what they do behind, there is a lot of difference. They do interact with various people before they come up with a policy. Of course, ultimately it is the decision of the president. In this case, the president overruled this different line of approach, and finally they bought the dust. I mean, the Americans bought the dust. Today, what they are facing in Iraq is absolutely not desirable.
It started there. It
It's all
started there.
started. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So but they have uh, this kind of a framework for achieving or taking a decision. So therefore, I don't think with the advent of Trump, their basic fundamentals are going to change. That will not change as far as international relations are concerned. What will happen is a weightage may change. He may give some more weightage to areas A, or less weightage to area B, or less weightage to policy A or policy B, but the overall trend will remain same. So my sense is that the US will continue to behave the way I projected to you. That is, it will keep giving you, अब मैं वो डायलॉग बोलना नहीं चाहता हूँ लेकिन बोल दूंगा मैं, वो हमको लिक्विड ऑक्सीजन लिक्विड ऑक्सीजन पे रखेगा।
ना जीने देगा ना मरने
न जीने
देगा।
देगा न मरने देगा, और हमको इसी इसी पॉलिसी फ्रेमवर्क में यूएस के अगेंस्ट ऑपरेट करना पड़ेगा। वी
Yeah,
विल सी वी
yeah,
विल सी we will see pulls down, we will see pulls up, pushes up. Now between
yeah,
this pull down and push up, we have to jump across and get across an obstacle.
yeah,
That has to be our
yeah.
approach.
But yeah,
But but
I
one
completely agree with you. I want to make a point. You know, people might be thinking, oh, you can't trust the US. They'll always push you down. You know, this well, based on what you said. But
Hmm.
what I want to tell everyone, and I think, I'll invite your comment also on this. In fact, you must comment on this, is that we have a history of dealing with the US. We
Yes.
have a history of dealing with the US when US was completely against us. They had put us
Correct.
in under sanctions. They had put us under MTCR. They had,
Correct.
they were backing Pakistan against you. They were in, whether you like it or not, they were doing a lot of nonsense in India. Okay,
That's right.
and they did it, and it's not this thing. So if you have been able to go through all that which they threw at you, and still you're rising, and
That's
you are unstoppable in that kind of a thing, with the kind of strength today you have, isn't there a case for us to change our track with USA? We know that all this, what you have said is right. There is a deep state or a committee or a party or a set of people behind who have an opinion on India and why India should be kept down. And, or rather, not kept down, or why India should not be allowed to rise fast or go beyond a point. So, having known this, isn't there a case for us to strategize how we handle USA differently?
Absolutely, there is a case. Why is the Indian lobby in American politics weak? We should invest there. If
So
the
that means
Chinese,
that you need to have a good lobby there.
absolutely,
You need a good lobby. Yeah, okay.
that is the first issue. Our lobby is always weaker than the Pakistani lobby. Imagine, Pakistan is struggling for everything, but yet their lobby is one of the best, at least as far as India is concerned. I can't say that for the other issues, but
Mm.
at least as far as India is concerned, what we are looking at is a counter lobby against China and Pakistan both.
Yeah,
So therefore, if the Chinese can
important
buy,
point.
yeah, if the Chinese can buy friendly media for $8 billion in 2018, why not us? See, today nobody is Dhoot ka Dula. Nobody is Dhoot ka Dula. I am fine. All your news channels are being sponsored by A, B, C, D people. So we can also sponsor congressmen. We can also help people out there and create our own lobbies. I had, in fact, a detailed list of what are the lobbies which are active. Luckily, this time I think we seem to have made a good deal of it. But again, getting Harmeet Dhillon into the policy formulation is something which I think we should have been proactive about it. So therefore, one is that lobby making for India has to be very strong in the US, given the realities which we are facing today. That is
Yeah,
point number one. Point number two
okay.
is, when we make a policy decision, we must factor in whether the US is going to support us or not support us. If the US is not going to support us, then we must have guardrails against it,
Yeah,
right?
important point.
Yeah, we
A
must have
very
guardrails.
important point.
We must have guardrails against it. And the third issue is, we also need to have counterweights to US. And I think in that matter, what we did with the Russian help, like immediately after the elections in May last year, Putin started pushing out statements saying that the elections in India were interfered by the US.
Mhm.
We didn't pick it up. We didn't propagate it.
Use
The
it.
government need not propagate it.
Yeah, others are there. There are people who can do it.
So
There are.
and it came out in large number of news channels. What Putin was trying to say, we were downplaying Putin just because the world was downplaying Putin.
Yeah, yeah.
so
I
so
think there's. Yeah,
so
please go ahead.
counterweight to US also, if they can put a counterweight against us as Pakistan, why not us?
You also. Why not you? Okay, I go with you completely.
Yeah.
Uh,
uh,
I also think there is yet another way. As we spoke, this point came to me, is that you make yourself the go-to person almost for many things. After all, then it's a very open secret. It's not a secret also. It's an open fact that China has to be contained by USA. And
yeah,
the only person who can contain China to a large extent militarily or anything is India, because India is the only one which can take on China head on many
true,
issues, notwithstanding whatever people say. Okay.
correct.
And we proved it for the past 4 years. We are the only country who have made China go back on the
That's right.
LAC.
Absolutely.
Okay, no other country has made it go back, walk back on the LAC, or for
Ex-
that matter, on their common border or on their common thing. See what's happening in South China Sea.
yeah,
America is not able to push China off the South China Sea, but you have been able to push them back. So you have this capability, and
absolutely.
America needs this capability. Is there a case for us to leverage this capability to ensure that America keeps supporting you through hell and high water?
Absolutely. The Unless you make yourself saleable, who will help
Then,
you?
yeah,
Who will help you?
I
And
agree. Yeah.
and, and what are our products? Our products are a counterweight to China. That's a big number
Big.
one product. Big number one product. The second counterweight of ours is the huge market which India gives to anyone and
Yes.
everyone. So if you are looking at decoupling from China, you offer your markets to them. Where is the harm? I mean, do it in a controlled manner that you don't sell yourself off. That should
Yeah.
not be the issue. But definitely that's why I put that: money, military, and modernization. These are the three things which we have to focus
Mm.
on now. If these are the
Yeah.
three things which we put it up on the table, I think India will be progressing well in a realistic theory of international politics.
Okay, fine. We'll stop here. We'll take a few questions because you have to leave
Yes,
also. So
that's
I
right.
thought we had a very, very interesting. Are you short of time? If you're short of time, I'll take questions. You can leave.
I would request, sir, if I can leave, because I'll have to
Yeah,
get
please. Yeah, yeah,
uh,
no problems. I'll take on the questions.
daily
Thanks a
traffic.
lot, General Dushyant. Yeah,
Thanks.
thanks a lot, General Dushyant, for this wonderful expose and your thoughts on how uh, you know people are trying to contain India and how there's a big power gain in doing so and how we have to get out of it. With
Thank
this, ladies and gentlemen, thanks a lot. You can switch off.
thank you,
I'll
sir.
now, yeah, I'll take on the questions and I'll answer it. There's no problem. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks a lot.
thank
Good evening and
thank
have a great evening.
thank you, sir. Jai Hind, sir.
Jai Hind. Okay, fine. We'll take on the questions now. No hurry. First, uh, Brigadier Vinayak Ramnarayan, uh, thanks a lot for becoming a YouTube member, sir. I'm so proud that you joined me, and I hope you do contribute. And with your thoughts, your mature thoughts on to make educate our audience. Right. And for those of you who don't know, he is one of my seniors in artillery. Of course, later when artillery got split into field artillery and air defense, he joined. He was in the air defense, so he's gone that way. But we've kept in touch. Okay. Uh, okay. Now let me take a few questions from the top because then after all, yeah. Shankar is right when he says West used Goldilocks principle against India. Then what can we call the thing used for Pakistan? Neither dead nor alive on liquid oxygen. China's role in Pakistan. Well, these are realities. This is reality of life that China will continue to play a role. Okay, and you will be the Goldilocks for West. There's no doubt about it. Similarly, Pakistan is the Goldilocks for China. So these things will go, whether it's Goldilocks principle or yeah, was a this is talk. But the fact is that West cannot do without India anymore, and countries like China cannot do without countries like Pakistan anymore. That's the hard fact. Yeah, what lessons USA and co derive from the mistake they made by aiding China's rise, and how has it become a Frankenstein? What will they apply to us to ensure that we stay contained? How? Yeah, we've spoken about all this. This after all today, Sam, this was the whole talk which General Dushyant explained. So I think this has been explained. Historically, US has successfully contained. USSR is trying to do to China currently and is laying the groundwork to contain India in future. There's a difference. I'm glad you asked this question. There's a difference. When USSR was there, its containment was basically military containment and containment of its global influence. Contestation was for global influence in other places. Okay, it was not economic. Against China, it is economic. To some extent, it is political also. Apart from military, okay, military influence, but the economic contestation has gone up with China. With India, the economic contestation might not be that much. The because it has the technological contest, barriers will be too much. Because India needs technology, and the technological barriers will be the deciding factors. If you get technology, if India gets technology and get its ideas right, no mother son can stop India from going where it has to go. Yeah, namaste, Marutan Ray. Thanks a lot. Uh, okay. Okay, if Chinese start a conflict with us, if we are winning, USA will put theoretics of support. If we look like losing, they will start a fake verbal conflict with contemporary user to maximize. That's your point of view. I don't think this will happen. Okay. Uh, okay. Yeah. Uh, World War II, as compared to our army size of soldiers, produced better results with minimum casualties, like Israel. Should we seek buffers inside East and West Pakistan? I don't think we should ask for anything with Bangladesh and Pakistan. We can deal with them with what we have. Uh, our military is largely understated and underestimated. We are strong enough to handle it. And that's what the Chinese have realized after 4 years. I'm going to talk of this business, why China went back. I'm seeing when to get the time to do it, but I will do it. Maybe I'll have to do it on Monday morning, early morning, 8 o'clock for a change, but I'll do it. Because why China went back is largely 4 years it stood on the LC and went back. Why? There are military factors, there are diplomatic factors, there are economic factors, and there are geopolitical factors. So we'll talk of it most probably on Monday morning. Okay, till then, wait. So, are we not ensuring containment of our progress due to underdevelopment of few highly populated states? Uh, what plan of action does our polity bureaucracy have to address this skewed development? We have pushed ourselves into the situation by not addressing the need for a balanced internal development, which will be exploited by our. I agree with you. In this case, in this context, we are the worst. We have failed. Our leaders have failed. Our leaders, irrespective of which party, they have failed in educating uh, the those youth, especially in the less developed state, and providing them an opportunity of employment and growth. And that will anywhere retard you down. That's the thing. So to that extent, will never be a threat to anyone. And this is not going to happen overnight and or in a hurry. We are a revisionist power seeking global reforms for contemporary collective betterment, and China is a proven revanchist hegemon, then why does everyone cozy up to China? Surely natural, yeah, that's security and money. I agree with you. Uh, we That's the way the world is. Many have perceived India to be weak. It is only now that India is reasserting itself. It's a matter of about, I feel, this is my own view, about a decade. In a decade, you would have grown to a level where people will start really looking at you. And in a decade, China would have declined. On that, I have no doubt. China would have declined. And then you will see things changing. What are our wrong policies so Pakistan or Bangladesh, like small countries, are not afraid from India? It is because we are not proactive against our enemy country that we are suffering. No, I don't think so. I think we are exhibiting a lot of strategic patience with Bangladesh, and we are exhibiting a lot of strategic firmness against Pakistan. We're being very firm with Pakistan. So and every time, you don't have to get into a fight. They're small countries. It's better to have that country with you willingly rather than always at loggerheads with you. Pakistan is something which is a gone case. But countries like China, countries like Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar, Bangladesh, Maldives, and Sri Lanka, and even Afghanistan, it's better to have them with you, even if you have to uh, live with some of their shenanigans. Right? That's the way I look at it, and that's the logical way of doing it. You are a bigger power, you can take on a lot of adversity, and then slowly make sure that these countries turn over. And it's happened already. It's not as if yesterday only I discussed Afghanistan. See what's happened in Afghanistan. And we discussed Sri Lanka before, we've discussed Maldives also before. Yeah. Dictatorship rocks, democracy will be downfall of India, weak leadership always harm country. Well, that's your view, but I think we are all the better. You see all the dictators around us. You see which dictator has done well. Even Chinese, that dictator fellow, he's going to kill China. Don't worry. And there is one fool here called Your Boy or Tall Boy. He's talking a lot. He's from China. You should know. Xi Jinping will kill China. You take my words, mark my words. Yeah, I think US has said the right thing. US was trying to contain India in the past because it considered India an ally of USSR. Now US considers India may surpass China in GDP by 2075. The situation, yeah, I think so. No one knows which way the cookie shall crumble. What makes you believe that USA would start taking mediatory instructions from Bharat? No, it's not mediatory instructions from Bharat. They giving it. It's a matter of being part of US's mediatory group, assisting US in getting Ukraine to a close. You can't do a lone hand out there. You don't have it. USA has some hand to play. It has a lot of hand to play. But if you can strengthen his hand, this is the period. So long as we keep fighting amongst ourselves by reviving 400 to 500-year-old issues, we can never realize our full potential. I think Harshdeep has given a wonderful point of view, and I completely agree with you. We need to set our differences aside. Our internal problems are you see the proceedings in the parliament, which are live on X also. See how they behave with each other. Okay, that's the thing. Yeah. So after 10 years, Pakistan will be a 400 million refugee state. How will we deal with it? Will it be a... Don't worry, Jose. After 10 years, we'll see. We should now deal with Pakistan as it is right now, and we are dealing with it well. Don't worry about it. We don't have to think so far ahead. Okay. Uh, yeah. Ask how can India develop its soft power and grow up from the colonial mindset? I mean, I don't know. Do we have a colonial mindset? I don't. I've not seen it. This is a narrative of certain people. Oh, colonialism, colonialism, colonialism. No, it's not so. And we have deployed our soft power well. Wherever we have gone, we have deployed our soft power well. This is the first time, Gonyal, you're coming to this channel. You'll slowly, if you are regularly going to see our channel, you'll understand. There's no colonialism in India. There's no colonial mindset in India. There's no hangover. This is the narrative some groups are, following, and that's how it is. Yeah, I think he's made a good point, Sandeep Singh. Gukesh winning the World Cup Chess Championship is a good example of soft power. Keep winning in sports, and yeah, I think so. In fact, South China Morning Post put out a photograph of the Ding Liren, who lost to Gukesh. And I put it out in my tweet. If you go to my handle, you'll see this tweet where, Ding is sitting like this, and just in front of him are the Chinese and the Indian flag. I, Ding Liren was a sportsman. He did his best. Reaching the final is not a joke. He lost it in the last minute. It could have been Gukesh also, but he lost, and he must have been very disappointed that he put his head down like this. And someone picked that where India and China flags are crossed. Look at it. It shows a Chinese in despair against India. That's soft power. It's psychological soft power. Go to my handle. I've tweeted it out. You'll understand. Yeah, we shall never grow like China as the USA has never resisted us. I agree. I would like to qualify. We will never grow the way China has grown, but we will outgrow China in the long run. Take it from me. I'll not be alive. Many of you might be alive. Some of you who are young will be alive. In your lifetime, you'll see India crossing China. Ukraine-Russia war, assuming it to be a circus of world deep state, it is not wise to mediate or touch it. I don't think it's wrong, right. You just can't stay on the sidelines and think you'll become a world power. You have to take risks. No, you lose nothing in this. Yeah, well, sir, in Parliament, in response to question if any other neighbor isn't having India first policy, why are we doing neighborhood first policy when we will be able to influence it? It'll happen. It's not necessary that fellow always looks at India as India first. Okay, this has never happened that India first after the 62 defeat. It was till 62 defeat. Everyone felt India first. After that, people said, no, India is not the power which we thought it was. So we have to start looking at other powers to survive. That's how it is. And you're not grown strong enough to overcome that cycle. The day you become strong, it'll reverse. So Nepal is very reliant on India for its economic security, trade security, and the 2015 blockade has put a strain on the security grant. Yeah, I agree with you completely. General Dushyant is looking like a Netaji. Oh, he's wearing a bandgala, so he will look like a Netaji. Okay. Okay. Colonization means population extermination and replaced by others like USA and Australia, or culture and language replaced like Brazil, UK. India has not colonized, we merely got looted. I don't agree because they were a colony. We were a colony of UK. And you can give different connotations to colonization and interpret it the way you want. But I think we were a colony and after all, we were the jewel in the crown. So you have to agree to that. Okay. So when Muktihan Vahini 2.0 will be created, there's something we'll have to ask Bangladesh. There's a thing which is within Bangladesh. I see a lot of interest coming on Bangladesh. Come tomorrow evening, 7:30 with Sri Iyer. We're going to talk of Bangladesh. Okay, we'll talk of Bangladesh tomorrow. And that's what, in fact, yesterday he requested me, "Can instead of waiting till Friday, can you come tomorrow?" So we'll talk of Bangladesh because there are a lot of discussion which we have to do on Bangladesh. Yeah, thanks a lot. I think we've done today. Good evening and Jai Hind to you. Join us tomorrow in the evening. Mr. Shreya here also will be there and we'll discuss Bangladesh. Till then, Jai Hind.